Yeah, hello, you're welcome to the channel. So let's dive straight into topics I have to talk about today. Manchester United have made their bid for Benjamin Sesko, the RB Leipzig striker, and how much did they bid now? 85 million euros, and then plus add-ons. 85 million euros plus add-ons. Whilst on the other hand, Newcastle United have their own bid in place, of 90 million euros. So 85 million euros guaranteed, 5 million euros in add-on. So that's big bid put in by both clubs. Now, I'll say what I've been saying for a while. I'll say what I've been saying for a while. How come such a bid is being made? How come such a bid is being made for Benjamin Sesko? Like, seriously, how? 14 goals this season, and you're having two clubs going head to head, for his signature. Almost as if he's like Ellen Haaland, or scored maybe 30 goals in the season, or like some Messi. This is just crazy. This is crazy to me. This is crazy to me. And what even makes it, what I say, the right word to use now. What even makes it a bit worrying for me is, or at least makes me wonder and pause about this, is no one is making any issue about the price of the striker. Rather, you're seeing Manchester United fans, you're seeing Newcastle United fans, going at each other. Oh, we're the better club, we have better pool, we're going to get this player. So, Fabrizio Romano said Manchester United sent official bid to show serious concrete intentions to RB Leipzig following Newcastle United's 90 million euros bid. Sources at Manchester United believe Sesko is keen on the move and decided to proceed with the official bid. Newcastle and United waiting for his formal decision. Now he's having to choose between two big clubs. Now, before I go into another direction, I have to say this. First off, when you look at Benjamin Sesko's production, does it deserve an 80 or 90 million euros bid? That's an 80 million pound bid. I don't see how he does. I just don't see how he does. You know, Fair enough, he's one of those young developmental strikers. But I guess in the market, you have to do what you have to do to get the player you want to get. But for me, I just don't think he is that good to be, attracting that interest. So, but overall, fair play to Manchester United. And it's a bit odd for me from a career point of view. You know, people keep saying Manchester United have pull, Manchester United are a bigger club. Bigger club since when? When was the last time Manchester United did anything of note? Maybe when was the last time Manchester United really competed in the Champions League, which is like the penultimate European competition? When was the last time Manchester United actually competed for the Premier League title? It's been at least a decade, if I'm not mistaken. So when was the last time that Manchester United even qualified for the Champions League? But Newcastle United this season are in the Champions League. And they've been in the Champions League, in the last 5 years more than Manchester United. So how is Manchester United a better project? And for me, I feel like he could have gone to Newcastle United because I have the sneaky feeling he may eventually choose Manchester United. Fair play to him if he does. But I have this feeling if he does go to Manchester United, he's going to be under a lot of pressure because that's how you got was his face into the building. Rasmus Højlund came in under a lot of pressure to perform immediately. And people often forget the toxic situation at Manchester United, and people often forget, the lack of quality in certain areas in that team. And when you look at that Manchester United midfield, you ask yourself, who is going to play, who is going to have that two-way role, who is going to go that back and forth in that midfield? Definitely not Bruno Fernandes, and definitely not Mount. Mount can try, but no, he can't. And if you're talking about Casemiro, that means you must be having a laugh. That means you must be joking. If you think Casemiro can play in that role, if you think Eriksen can play in that role, maybe the person that maybe, but he's not even that experienced. He's not that at the level yet Kobe Mainoo, from a physical standpoint, maybe can play in that role, but he's still a young kid. So overall, looking at the Manchester United project, looking at the Newcastle United project, if I'm a player, I'm not going to Manchester United because what can they offer you? No Champions League football. It's a toxic situation already at the club. So why are you going? But obviously, probably sold him on the history of Manchester United, or you can come to the theater of dreams, and that there's a club everyone wants to play for. That's fine. I get that. But from a career standpoint, I just don't think it is the most how do I say this? I don't think it is the best move for a young striker to make. Now, if you have someone who's more experienced, Oli Watkins, or someone who's more experienced that can go in immediately and ready to deliver immediately, then that's fine. But you're having a young striker going in again. People say his mentality is different. Fine, let's see. But that team is lacking in a lot of areas, in my opinion. You know, for Benjamin Sesko to try there. But let's see how it all shakes down. And then for Newcastle United, how would they be feeling? It just feels a bit odd to me about Newcastle United. How each player they go for, there's always someone. Each player they go for, there's always someone. Up to I don't know, is it a week or 2 weeks ago? Possibly since maybe I've been happening in the background. Manchester United were not ever rumored to be interested in Sesko until Newcastle United became interested in Sesko. Newcastle United wanted Ekitike, Liverpool went on, got him, took him from right under their noses. Wanted Mbeumo, Manchester United came and took him from under their noses. So it just kind of feels like I'm sure it kind of feels like to Newcastle United fans that they can't really get a break. Each time it feels like they're almost going to get that signing done. Someone else comes in and takes the player from under their noses. And this brings me to a question, because there's something I saw on X, someone saying, how can one club have £100 million for winning the Club World Cup, referring to Chelsea, and then clubs like Morecambe, are getting relegated or going to administration and things like that. For me, the question around that is this: how about the FA and all the regulatory bodies hold owners like that accountable? Hold them accountable for how they run the clubs into the ground, as opposed to chastising and making life difficult for the owners of clubs like Newcastle United, like Roman when it was at Chelsea, and even Claire Lake at a point in time. People who actually want to invest in the clubs they bought, in the clubs they own, and the clubs that they're custodians for. I don't quite get it. You see an owner ready to even dip his fingers or dip their fingers into their own personal wealth to make sure a club is good, to make sure a club is functioning, to make sure a club can get players that they need to get, to make sure a club, has bills paid. But for some reason, those are the clubs that the FA, the Premier League, maybe this new supposed independent sport regulatory bodies, those are the clubs that they want to look at. Those are the clubs they want to make life difficult for. But you keep seeing owners that hide under different sort of corporate sort of things and make life difficult for their clubs and run their clubs into the ground. But there is no regulation for them. That's one question I ask. You had issues with Roman. You have issues with the Man City owners. You had issues with the Newcastle United owners. In fact, you came up with this ATP thing, this APT thing, this ATP thing, just because of the owners of Newcastle United, associated third-party transactions. You came up with that whole regulation because of them. Roman, you came up with FFP because of Roman. And these are all people, all owners that want to actually invest in their club, that actually want to spend on their club. But somehow, people like the Glazers always find a way to just keep existing, keep leeching on their club, and that's fine. And that's okay. Apparently that's fine. And they always know, I'm talking about the FA now, I'm talking about the Premier League now, and all those regulatory agencies of football in the Premier League and Europe. They always find a way to make owners of Newcastle United or from that part of the world that own clubs, make them look like the bad guy, make them look like the bad people. Oh, we're going to have this new law to prevent them from doing this and ruining football. But you have the people who run these clubs into the ground, and nothing seems to happen to those people. And for some reason, the hands of the FA, the hands of whoever always seems to be tied. Always. Or we can't do this, he runs the club, whatever reason. But you see owners that actually want to spend on their clubs. Now, okay, William, there's some talk about William being agents being paid by Roman from personal funds or funds not in the coffers of Chelsea. And Chelsea, I think, have been fined for that. I think that's part of one of the things that they've been fined for. But the Glazers keep leeching on Manchester United, but that's fine. That's okay. You know, so it just odd to me how this regulation thing works, because no aspect of life is governed this way. No aspect of life is governed this way. If I own a company, right, maybe a shoe factory, and I'm looking for, someone that would help in shipping. If I have a cousin that can help ship those shoes at a cheap rate, I can say, bro, come help me out. I'll pay you, but it's going to be at a cheap rate because it's going to be at a cheaper rate. Would that not be the logical thing to do? But in football, there's all this, they come up with all these words, buzzwords, sports washing. So who act and they say, you know what they're trying to say? Oh, these people are trying to look good in our eyes. That's why. No. How would people who are worth billions, people that you actually go to borrow money from, want to look good in your eyes? Does it make any sense to anyone? That they have the investments all over the world. So for me, that aspect of regulation doesn't make sense. Manchester United have put in that bid for Sesko. Let's see how it's done. So I don't think they would have even put in that bid if he has shown signs that, or if he had sent words to Manchester United via representatives that, okay, I want to sign for Newcastle United. I want to accept, their personal term offer. I think where Newcastle United are right now, they're going to offer more for Sesko in terms of personal terms, and they've shown that they're willing to offer more in terms of salary and wages. They're willing to do that. So let's see how it all shakes down. My advice to Newcastle United owners: if you're not going to get a Sesko, and you're looking for a massive giant, you're looking for someone who's 6'5" and above, total Rokoda range there for a fraction of the money. And if I'm advising the Sesko, why do you want to go to Manchester United? I know they're going to sell you the thing about, oh, we're an old club, great club. And so this leads me to another question I want to ask people. Is being a big club eternal? Does it never end? You're always a big club. So let's say 20 years ago, you won 2 Champions Leagues. And then 20 years later, you finished consistently in the bottom half of the table. Do you still remain a big club? Is it internal? Do we ever get to a point where we say, this club used to be a big club, used to be a very prestigious club, but now you're not what, the ink or on your letterhead? Do we ever get to a point, or a club is always big, no matter what? I think this is a question that we need to talk about and ask. But apparently, they sold him some projects that, okay, we're going to sign you, we're going to get other people, to help boost the club, to help with the project. We know where we're going to. Fair play. Let's see how that all shakes down. I would have felt that Manchester United would have taken care of that midfield, because Ruben Amorim, like every other modern manager, very stubborn, wants to play his 3 at the back, wants to play his system, and he's going to play his system. When you look at that Manchester United midfield, you ask yourself, who is going to play those roles? Because when you play 3-4-3, you're playing 3-4-3, 5-3-2, whatever, those 2 central midfielders are very, very key. So obviously that the bid has been made. Let's see how it shakes down. Now let's talk a bit about Chelsea. So it's beginning to seem increasingly likely, that Nicolas Jackson could be leaving Chelsea. Now for me, I have mixed feelings about it. And for me, when you're talking about being a striker, if you look, say, Nicolas Jackson as a striker, for me, no, forget about it. I've been there before. There's no need looking at Nicolas Jackson and thinking he's going to come good as a striker. Maybe he does when he's like 26, 27, maybe. But right now, I think João Pedro should be the number one guy to be a striker. But I still feel rather than signing Alejandro Garnacho, you have a weapon. You have Nicolas Jackson, an attacking threat. For me, I feel if you would free Nicolas Jackson, you would free him up if you play him as a left winger. He and Bino Gittins can be left wing options. He's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the skill, he can create chances. I think if you take off that burden from Nicolas Jackson, where you say you are the main guy, you have to get the goals, he will come alive. The limitations to Jackson's game is this. In the box, he lacks awareness. His body shape is all wrong for a striker in the box. He doesn't have good movement in the box like a number 9 should have. Those are his weaknesses. But when you have Nicolas Jackson running at a fullback, full tilt, at pace, 6 foot, the winger who is 6 foot plus, that would be absolutely terrifying for any fullback. And I think that is what Chelsea should look to do. That's why the Garnacho deal doesn't make any sense to me. It just feels like cronyism in football at the highest level. Lawrence Stewart, Paul Winston, they feel like, okay, this is a guy we know, the guy we like, we will know his agent is someone we want to sign. I look at him and say, yes, he's a nice talent. Yes, he is decent. But is this super, super special that you're willing to throw one of your best academic products out the window in Tyreek George, that you're willing to, cut and run with Nicolas Jackson? Is Garnacho is it that good? Is it that super phenomenal? I don't see it. I don't see it. I know a lot of Chelsea fans are like, bring, because they have this Sinitanium. They always need their Sinitanium medication, new signing. They want a new sign every time. Let's sign 10 players, doesn't matter. Bring. And then some, they have this mindset of whatever the owners say, whatever Blue Core does, whatever Clear Lake does, that's perfect. I'm not doubting them anymore. Go to bed. If that's the mindset you have in life in general, just go to bed, put your head on the pillow and sleep. Because you can't go through life just believing and trust and just saying whatever this person does is right. I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to argue about it. Even if they're signing someone who has never trapped the football in his life, I'm going to say yes. No. If Garnacho comes in and he turns out to be a great signing for Chelsea, well, that's fine. But to gut your left wing because of Garnacho, I don't see it. Where's the production? Where's the production? For me, it just doesn't make any sense. So I get Nicolas Jackson not being the first choice or the second choice as the number 9, as a striker. I get it. 100% I do. Believe me, I get it. I've seen games where you've had balls set up for him, he hoofs it into the skies. It gets to crash into Starlink, in the in space. I've seen him have terrible movement and terrible box awareness. I've seen it. So that just says to me, he at this point cannot be a striker. At this point, he cannot be a number 9 for for an under 12 side. At this point in time, he cannot. But as a winger, he's got pace, he's got skill, and you take out that pressure from him. You let him combine with João Pedro that maybe sometimes will drop out wide, get the ball off him, have him move. It will just be exciting to watch, in my opinion. And so going out there to let him go to a Newcastle United if they are unable to get Sesko, to Manchester United if they are unable to get Sesko, or to Aston Villa because Unai Emery seems to be a fan of him. And then who you bring in Enzo Garnacho? For me, any and every player can be sold. Well, the question is, who are you replacing that player with? That is the question. Who are you replacing that player with? If you brought Adema Lukman, the evidence of production. Okay, Jackson, I think you would have played well at that left wing, but we got a better option. His wage demands even fall straight into the whole Clear Lake blue coat sort of wage structure. Fair play. Get to Rodrigo, maybe, even if I feel he's slightly overhyped. You see him okay at Madrid. He has this level of production, play at the top level. Possibly he comes in, to Chelsea and he delivers. So maybe we can, play at that left wing. Then that would make some sense to me. But for a Garnacho, it makes really no sense to me. It really doesn't. So Nicolas Jackson, how I feel about it, while I get why, he doesn't play in that 9 anymore, or he's not the first or second name on the team sheet for that striking position. For me, why are you selling him if Garnacho is a replacement? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And now we talk about Christopher Nkunku. So Christopher Nkunku, we've been hearing this for 4 days. We've been hearing this from Fabrizio Romano. Possibly will be leaving, Chelsea. They're looking for a move. At some point, we heard that Inter Milan was an option for him. RB Leipzig is an option for him as well. Now, Christopher Nkunku, I've said it before, that it's just sad because he had all the pedigree coming in from Leipzig. We've seen what he's done there. Every Chelsea fan, anticipated with bated breath. Everyone was excited when he would make his debut. And when he made his debut for Chelsea under Pochettino, we could see some of his quality. So that was fine. And then preseason under Enzo Marseca. Whoo! My oh my, he was good during preseason, Nicolas Jackson. And he was played in his favorite position behind the striker. He was driving. We're all happy, excited about it. And then the first league game of the season, out of position. Enzo Marseca plays him out of position. The first league game of the season against Man City, he's played on the left wing. And he's played like someone that is meant to hold with. Same thing with João Felix. Nkunku is a player that would always drift to the middle. So he's never really a winger. Never a winger. But for whatever Maresca, put him out there. And what fans will always do that. You have this set of fans who, we love Maresca. Whatever he says is law. We refuse to believe our eyes. We refuse to believe our knowledge of football. We refuse to believe what Nkunku has been doing in RB Leipzig. What we rather believe is Bundesliga is a farmers league, and that's it. And that's the extent of the analysis. The Bundesliga is a farmers league. Oh, let's forget about it. Farmers league. If Isak accepts to go to Liverpool now but himself accepts to go to Newcastle United, let's see how that all shakes down now. So hopefully we'll get the final statement on that one. So Nkunku, we saw his best position, but the fan base, we have this one that always, you see on X, they have their avatars as Enzo Maresca's face. You just know you can't argue with fans like that because they've said them, they're so loud that we are worshippers of this coach or we are worshippers of this player. No matter what the player does, we're going to say he's right. No matter what the coach does, we're going to say he's right. So fair play to them because that's how they see football. But if you really appreciate the game, you would know that Nkunku not a left winger. So after all that jazz, he began to play him as a striker. And if you notice, Nkunku embraced that role as a striker. But what Maresca began to do is just the old school tactics of coaches. When the club has signed you and the coach wants you out, it's what they do to make you get frustrated, to make the player frustrated. It's old school tricks. Play you 2 minutes to the end of the game. Tell you to warm up 5 minutes to the end of the game and put you in 3 minutes to go. Play you out of position. These old school tricks. When you talk about dark arts, Arsenal are the masters of dark arts. That's dark arts there for you. And then what fans will always do is, this player, you don't want to give your all. How can you give your all when you play 2 minutes? Or how can you give your all when you consistently play out of position? And then, of course, Cole Palmer is the most important player at Chelsea. He is Chelsea's number 10. No one is taking that away from him. But players respect hierarchy. You know, if you're a player, you are a winger, for instance, or you're a 10, you know who is the better 10 than you. You may have that competitive spirit, but you know, this guy is better than me. Accept it. But when you have opportunities to play and the coach doesn't play you, instantly that destroys your confidence. And that's what Enzo Marseca did. And that's what a lot of coaches do. Palmer in the Wolves game, if we remember that Wolves game, Cole Palmer was hopping on one leg all through. And as an Nkunku, if you're Nkunku sitting on the bench, you're watching Cole Palmer basically hobbling. And the coach just doesn't bring you on, essentially telling you you're not good enough. That Cole Palmer with half a leg is better than you. Then where does the confidence come from? Where does the fight come from? When the coach doesn't want to let you fight. And so for me, so fair play, his head is gone from the club. So I think the best thing for both parties is player and coach, Nkunku should go. Nkunku should leave. Fair play. The head RB Leipzig are interested in getting him. So maybe you have one of those things where, he'll Xavi Simons will come to Chelsea on a separate deal, and Nkunku would go to RB Leipzig on a separate deal. So maybe that's what would happen. But the marriage has to end. It has to be a divorce right now. Chelsea and Nkunku, top player, good quality player. He's not suddenly a bad player, but just right now his head is gone. He doesn't really have the motivation to play for Chelsea, especially obviously you're seeing Xavi Simons coming in, and contrary to what some fans want to talk about, Xavi Simons is not a winger. That's just honest truth. If you watch football, understand the game, he's not a winger. So when people say maybe he plays out wide, inverted, no. That's the key difference between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1. 4-2-3-1, you're playing with 3 10s. While a 4-3-3, you're playing with 2 wingers and 1 10. So if Enzo Marseca decides to play a 4-2-3-1, then that means he's going to play with 3 10s. But then again, he's shown he's not really the most trusting of Nkunku. So for me, Nkunku probably should go. RB Leipzig could be a good move for him. Fair play. That could be a good move for him. Or maybe the Inter Milan move could work. He needs to go somewhere where he'll be playing. So at least that opens up space for a Chelsea player to be at the club. Maybe Tyreek George remains at the club. So fair play, both players, if they leave. But for me, Jackson, it would be painful for Jackson to leave and the replacement being Garnacho. That's it. I know people like their signings. Get me that new signing. Get me that new signing high. Get me that new guy, that new body, that face I've not, that person I've not seen in a blue shirt before. Get him in. That's a high fans have. So that's it on that. But something I want to talk about, back to the Sesko thing. Not really so much to do with Sesko, but Gary Lineker said something about Victor Osimhen not getting signed by top European clubs. And it's something I feel I have to address because I don't think anyone else will really address it. I will have to address it. People may not like me saying it, but I'll have to say that one of the reasons I started this channel, because I've seen a lot of things that happen to black players, a lot of things that happen to Nigerian players, and it just really like, nothing, this is, and we're going to act like it didn't happen. Look at Sesko, for instance. No one is talking about the amount. No one is saying, how dare you pay that kind of amount? He must be greedy. No one is saying it. Osimhen was called every other name. But let's read the quote from Gary Lineker. So he says, this is Gary Lineker speaking. He said, he was so impressive and I followed his career because of that. He was absolutely brilliant for Napoli. I mean, he was sensational. I do hear on the grapevine that a reason one or two of the clubs are a little bit nervous is that sometimes he goes missing for a few days. So there's apparently some kind of slight question mark as to his character in that sense. Now, I would say to Gary Lineker, whatever grapevine you headed from should be wearing a cap with a pointed hat. That grapevine is probably only bears sour grapes. Why are you talking about character issues here? You see Victor Osimhen, the way he plays. Keep Nigeria aside, because if I talk about Nigeria, say, oh, Nigeria does what? Watch how he played for Napoli. Give his all, give his all, give his all, give his all. Run 110, run for 120 minutes if possible. Put his head in places where other players are scared to put their boots in, put their studs in. But he's the one with character issues. Now, if we go back a bit, if we go back a bit, remember Ronaldinho? Ronaldinho, when he played for Barcelona, Ronaldinho was a magical player. Still now, when you see him playing in all those charity games, you still see that the magic still flows through him. So a phenomenally gifted player. One of the only players that has got the Bernabeu to stand up and applaud a Barcelona player. So top player. But we know Ronaldinho would go out partying and he would come back and no one made an issue. Right. And now, for those of you who are old enough to remember, we had a player called Luis Suarez that played for Liverpool. Luis Suarez would bite players. Luis Suarez would say racist things. And you have people defend Luis Suarez. Oh, it's the culture. So you defend racist culture. Would you now? Oh, and they wore t-shirts for him when he called Patrice Evra the N-word. They won t-shirts for him, like maybe he's suffering from an ailment or something like that. Maybe he had cancer, he's fighting through it, come up strong. They wore, the likes of Jamie Carragher and the likes wore a t-shirt for Luis Suarez when he was suspended for his racial abuse of Patrice Evra. They wore t-shirts for him. And these are the people you have in the media. So what do you expect some of them to even say? They wore t-shirts for him. They all stood there, in support, in solidarity. Luis Suarez beat the necks of players. No one called that character issues. But Victor Osimhen got racially abused by his own club. By his own club. By his own club. A club he plays for. And everyone like, oh, well, it's good. Everybody sweep it under the rug. Let's act like it doesn't exist. And then people whip up rubbish like racist character issues. What character issues do you speak about? You see, when they want to bury a player, they would look for anything, no matter how tiny it is, no matter how abstract it is. Gary Neville, do you mind? I'm sorry, Gary Lineker, do you mind giving the source of, the report you got, or at least telling us the character issues that he had? So he goes missing for a few days. What do you mean goes missing? So he doesn't train? Is that what you're trying to say? Come out with it. Come up with it and say it. Come up with it and say it and say what it is. He plays, he performs, scores goals. We see players do all sorts of mad stuff. All sorts of mad stuff. And there's no issue about it. It's fine. Look at what Joey Barton does every other day, but he has a platform. He has a platform to speak every day. People might say, oh, does this sound preachy? No, get my point. When you continually bury players from a part of the world, you continually hold them to, you change the narrative when it comes to players from a particular part of the world. Is annoying, is frustrating, and someone has to call you out. Someone has to call you out. People say, oh, his wage demands are so crazy. What do you mean crazy? No one ever came up with his actual wages. Now, go and compare Victor Osimhen's wages. Compare it with your Haaland's, the striker that he's meant to be in the same sort of conversation or the same list with. Maybe you say Harry Kane is better than him. Fine, fair play. You have Lewandowski, you've got Haaland. No one makes an issue of their wages. Benjamin Sesko is going to be signed now either by Manchester United or by Newcastle United. And either way, he's going to be earning a huge chunk. He's going to get a huge pay raise. No one is making an issue of his wages. But when it comes to certain players, people want to be smart. Oh, his wages are so crazy. And those Nigerian fans, content creators that feel like you have to drag a Nigerian player, you have to bring down a Nigerian player for your platform to grow, shame on you. Shame on you. You feel you have to drag on a Nigerian player, and you twerk for an European club. Shame on you. Shame on you. Some of you out there have been supporting Chelsea before you were even born. So don't come up here and tell me, oh, I support. No. Because it's even worse for Nigerian fans because you see what he does for your national team every day he plays for Nigeria. Every day. Every day he plays. You see the sacrifice. You see him run himself into the ground. You see him do that. But when it comes to, oh, Chelsea, you should have taken the wage cut. Why should he earn more than Cole Palmer? Are you dense? When Victor Osimhen was playing Champions League football for Lille, where was Cole Palmer? I love Cole Palmer. I'm a Chelsea fan. He's Chelsea's best player at the minute. There's nothing in slight or attack on Cole Palmer, but let's get things right. When Victor Osimhen was playing for Lille, going head-to-head with Aspilicueta in Champions League fixtures, where was Cole Palmer? Probably at Man City's academy. But he should come now and take a lower wage. Even if you want to sign a Lewandowski as old as he is now, would anyone dare tell him to take a pay cut? And what people don't get is usually if a player is to leave a club, usually the player demands for double of what he earns. Usually demands for double of what he earns. Victor Osimhen only demanded for exactly what he was earning. I want to also draw your attention to something because some people say, oh, this is all about Victor Osimhen, whatever. Let me draw your attention to something. You have Ademola Lookman. He had a gentleman's agreement with Atalanta. That if bids in a particular range come for him this season, he should be allowed to, go to the club. Inter Milan put in that bid. Atalanta say, no, we're not letting you go. We're not letting you go. We're going to make you look as bad as possible. We're not letting you go. And Ademola Lookman is the quiet guy, is the calm guy, is the good boy. But look at what is happening to him. Ademola Lookman's coach comes up to criticize his player, criticize his character. And people are like, yeah. And you have Nigerians who support this. Are you serious? You don't know the power of narratives. When Ethan Nwaneri, I'll digress a bit and then I'll come back on point, don't you worry. When Ethan Nwaneri was given his debut by Mikel Arteta, the entire English media, the vitriol that Mikel Arteta received, that he was only doing it, for his own ego, blah, 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 blah. But when Max Dowman got his debut, it was all praise about the player's ability. So I want to point this out. There's some content creators out there who say, I don't want this Osimhen at my club, or because I don't want Nigerians around to come with their narrative and all that. But you would have a German player and the German narrative at the club you call your club. You would also have, the Uruguayan player, the Brazilian player, the French player with the French narrative around that player at your club. And then when a player you think you like doesn't get the value, doesn't get valued, you twist your nose and you say, oh, why are they not valuing him? Keep quiet. Because when you let it happen to one person, it will happen to everybody. It will happen to everybody. These are things that I have been watching football for a long time, and I have noticed things. I've noticed when it comes to a player from Africa that plays for Africa, an African country. You see, the narrative is kind of a bit odd. It's kind of odd. You know, Lewandowski at his age, is he going to take a pay cut to go anywhere? Would he take a pay cut to go to any club at his age now? Would he? No. Victor Osimhen's numbers speak for him. It speaks. Victor Osimhen's numbers speak for him. Teddy, how many goals this season? Sesko, 14 goals. And you've seen two clubs fighting over him, and no one is making an issue about it. No one is saying, oh, how dare he earn that money? Why doesn't he want to take a pay cut? You're seeing clubs going head to head for him. And why do you think that exists? It's a narrative built around him right now. So it has some people say, oh, you need to get a big agent. Yeah. Big agent doesn't really matter. It doesn't. Fair play. One thing I'll say to Nigerian players is you need to get you agents or lawyers that have your best interest at heart, that will look at the contents of your contract. Because sometimes how these players feel is because of where they're coming from, because people ignore the fact that an academy player probably earns more. An academy player in the Premier League probably earns more than a player playing in the MPFL, like a full professional playing in the Nigerian Premier Football League. So people don't understand where these players come from, how tough they have to fight. So when you've come from such a tough situation, when you see a salary in front of you, you're going to grab it. You will be under pressure, to say, oh, this is going to take me out of poverty. This is going to take my family out of poverty. I have to dive on this. And they ignore certain things. So this is my advice out there to Victor Osimhen, to Ademola Lookman, to young players coming through, Areri Korabo, the likes of them coming through grassroots football in Nigeria. When you want to sign that contract, get you a lawyer by your side. Look at every word of that contract. It's not just about what you're paid. It's not, oh, they pay me 10,000 euros a week. No. It goes beyond that. And I'm sure Ademola Lookman right now is learning the hard way. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. You look at your release clause. What are the terms around the triggering of the release clause? You look at it and say, I don't want to sign me, I don't want it. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want, a Valkyrie to come pick you by your shoulders and take you to training, you have that in your contract. You have that in your contract. If you want your house to be guarded by 2 Centurion commanders, you have that in your contract. No gentleman's agreement, especially when you're dealing with an institution that is more powerful than you. And you already have those narratives that get built about African players, about Nigerian players. People think it's unintentional. No, it's planned. Ask yourself, why is it that it's difficult for Nigeria to get dual nationals? Of course, there's a problem of how the NFF is run, but there's also the question of my brand. Once I start playing for Nigeria, I've seen a lot of people play for Nigeria and their brand just disappears, just plummets. They used to be seen as this wonder kid worth £50 million. Now people look at me as a £10 million player. And it's all this narrative around these players that cause these things. And what people don't get is this. I've said this about Pele, and now I want to speak to Nigerians because For me, it was shocking. What shocks me is not what the likes of Gary Lineker say. They will say what they want to say because they don't really feel the impact of it. So, come World Cup, Gary Lineker will be cheering for England. He will be cheering for Harry Kane. He won't be cheering for Victor Osimhen. So it doesn't matter to him. But what people forget, what Nigerians don't get, what Africans don't get is this. You have players that help lift the value of your entire football ecosystem. If you look at Brazil, if you look at Argentina, Pele, though he's gone, blessed memories, one of the finest footballers to ever play football. He set something for Brazil that is eternal. It's going to last as long as this world exists. As long as this world exists, he set it in stone. Everyone wants a piece of Pele. Everyone wants that Brazilian flair. It's set. So it's not just him anymore. Same thing with Argentina. Maradona has set it. It's eternal. As long as this world exists, people want Argentine players. You see an Argentine player can be signed straight from River Plate. Straight from River Plate to Real Madrid, arguably the biggest club in the world. No issues about it. No question about experience, playing at the high level whatsoever. No question about adapting to a league or whatever. Straight. Florian Wirtz, straight to Liverpool, 160 million pounds. No one said, oh, you need to take a pay cut and prove yourself in the league. What we forget is Nigeria and Africa indeed missed out on an opportunity with Victor Osimhen. Because Victor Osimhen would have crushed it in the Premier League, and what that would have meant for everyone else who is of African descent that played for an African country would mean, oh, if Victor Osimhen can actually, smash it in this league. Oh, Chelsea has him. So we can't obviously get him, but we can get the next Victor Osimhen. We can get the next guy of the production line, and then your league begins to be taken seriously. Players that come out from your country begin to be taken seriously. But people think it's all about this player. Oh, drag this player, accuse this player. Even for Ademola Lookman, people who were trying to act like they wanted to talk good of him did not really talk good of him, but more so went on to drag, to say disparaging things about Victor Osimhen rather than praising Ademola Lookman. I really care about the amount of goals that boy has scored. If he was a Brazilian, there's no way he's languishing in a Norwegian team near the bottom of the league table. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. And one thing that really frustrates me is, if you don't believe me, that's fine. That's fine. I'm human. I can be fallible. So if you don't believe me, fine. But when you don't believe your own eyes, your own ears, your own senses, then there's something really wrong. There's something really wrong. Like you see the whole transaction for Sesko, you see the amounts being spent, you see the narrative, no one even saying, oh, but he needs to reduce his wages to adapt to the Premier League. No one says that. Everyone looks at him and looks at his upside alone. And you see all that, and then you say, and there's nothing happening. So all this talk of character issues, can we give it a rest? And this transcends football. If you follow the NFL, if you follow American college football, if you follow the whole thing about Deion Sanders, if you follow Shedeur Sanders, you would get it. You get what I'm talking about. When the system wants to bury you, they bury you. And so it makes me ask this question. 14 goals, Sesko. 14 goals, Sesko. This may seem a bit of a rant, but I've got to do it. No one else is going to do it because it's not a sexy topic. It's not something that gets a million views. I know. I know. It's not that sweet topic. I wish I would. I wish I would work for an European club at the expense of, the truth, at the expense of what's happening to African and Nigerian players. I wish I would, but that's not going to happen here. Other channels, they can do that for you. They can do that. They can accuse, when it comes to a Nigerian legend like Mikel Obi, accuse him nothing good about him. But when a Frank Leboeuf says whatever he wants to say, oh, it's beautiful, it's law, you can't criticize him. Nigerians, when can we stop simping for Europeans? When? When can we stop? Intellectual simps, that's the problem. When can we stop? Now, I'm not saying Sesko doesn't have ability. He does have ability, of course. I'm not saying he doesn't have, he has ability. But all these players, they have ability. But what gets you to that next level is narrative around you. Is the storytelling that is built around you. I was watching a fan channel, YouTube channel as well. Someone was talking about, Victor Osimhen. And this is what he said. This is what he said. Not word for word, but this is the spirit of what he said. I've not quite watched Victor Osimhen, but I think I don't really know the player, but I think he has some character issues. What? You don't know the player, but he has character issues. How? So if I don't know you, for instance, and I see you, maybe you drive by my street every day, and then someone asks me about you, I say, I don't quite know that guy, but I think he's just a bad father. Would that be fair to say? But people go on these channels and say these things, and say this outright nonsense. They say these things and people are like, oh, that's good, character issue. What is the character issue? For Ademola Lookman, what is his character issue? What is the character problem that Ademola Lookman has? Tell me, point it out. What character issue does he have? I'm sorry, I have to say this because again, no one else is going to say it. On most platforms, on most channels, what people are going to do is they are going to, find a way to buy into this whole nonsense. Why? Why? It's kind of like be grateful for what you get. We can say anything about you, you just have to take it. Jimmy Carragher can come on, say anything about AFCON, and chest his ignorance. That's the annoying thing. You know nothing, you chest your ignorance, and you spout rubbish based on your ignorance. And you're allowed to go free. It's fine, beautiful, it's okay. Keep going. And what we don't get is this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. High tide raises all boats, all ships. Because the day the Nigerian player becomes respected, the day the Nigerian professional football player has his right value. I'm not saying if a player is not good enough, if a player, plays like he has to left feet, he should suddenly be said he's the world best player. But when a player's ability has shown you over the course of time that he's at this level, why bring him down? What we don't get is this. The day you see Nigerian players really accepted, really given their right value, your value as a content creator out there, your value, as a Nigerian sports journalist would increase. Automatically increase. Because when they're looking for experts to talk about that world-class Victor Osimhen, that super talented Shola Ogundono, that top-level talent Rafiu Durushimi, when they're looking to talk about those players, who would they go to? They'll go to the experts that know about Nigerian football. But when you decide you want to constantly devalue those players, who do you think they will go? They're not talking to you. They'll talk to the Brazilian guys that are doing their job. So, for me, I'm tired. They come with these insinuations, character issues. Okay? But you can't define it, you can't elaborate. You just throw it out there into the ether and everyone gets crazy with it. Everyone runs wild. Oh, they say he has character issues. And what's frustrating, you as a Nigerian out there, you see this player every day give his all, gives their all for you. Run themselves into the ground, AFCON, World Cup qualifiers, and you, because you want some sort of validation from God knows who, you say, yeah, it's true. Oh, yeah, Victor Osimhen has character issues. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't, someone comes on to talk about Victor Boniface. Oh, he has no talent. What? Is that what we want to do because we feel that's the way we can rise? Bringing down your own is not a sustainable way for success. It's not sustainable. Bringing down your own. Now, if it's someone like Ahmed Musa, for instance, that should be retired, you say, oh, retired, no need to play, da, da, da. But you still respect what he did in the past. You don't say he did rubbish in the past. You respect it. Be fair. But you go and you bring down yours. You belittle your own player for another player from another country. Why? I'm not saying you should begin to say, oh, Victor Osimhen is a better striker than Harry Kane ever was. I'm not expecting you to be delusional. What I'm expecting you to do is to be fair. And for European media outlets out there, can you stop? Can you stop with this narrative? I know you won't, but someone has to ask you, can you stop? Find out things about a player. Do your research. You have the resources. Do your research before you come up on your large platform and say nonsense about players and say things you can substantiate. We don't quite know about this. How about you know? Before you spout, before you say things, how about you find out? You get to know, get the information, get your data, and say things. Someone, I think was it Chris Sutton or someone was saying was trying to say Delap is a better player than Victor Osimhen. Can you imagine that level of degrading, that level of insult you can give to a player? Delap has upside. Probably he'll score lots of goals for Chelsea. He's going to come good. He's a young player. He's pretty raw, but he's shown promise. But you will bring down someone at the level of Victor Osimhen because of that player. Because of that player. Look at Rio. Look at Rio. Look at Rio Ugumoha. Look at Rio. Now it looks like he's going to play for England. Look at the praise. You see all the videos. For every touch he makes, there's a video, positive reviews, positive remarks. Mark my words, the day he says, I might want to play for England, all those will dry up. All those positive niceties, gone. And for me, I'm gone past that era of wanting people to bring those positive narratives. If you're not going to bring the positive narrative, how about to keep quiet? It becomes the responsibility of we Nigerian creators, we Nigerian journalists out there, to say these positive things. But we don't get it. You see journalists with large platforms. What they do is criticize players, bring down players. You think that's the way? They think that's the way. Oh, when we bring down this player, that means we are better. No, you're not. You know how Nigerian players have to suffer, have to struggle to get to where they are. Where is the pathway from academy football to first team football in the MPFL? Non-existent. These players have to grind, craft, claw their way out to get to somewhere, and you bring them down. Especially when you're talking about top-level talent, top-level players that perform on a daily. And this absence thing Gary Lineker is talking about, Gary Lineker, I know you're a wonderful player, very good host, match of the day, doing good job with the rest of football. But whoever your source is, just lying to you. Just lying to you. Absence how? When you look at Nigeria, for instance, One of the things that has changed in this era is turning up for international duties, turning up to camp. 1994 said one issue we had with them is always turning up late. You have players strolling in to camp, trickling in. But with Victor Osimhen in Nigeria, he was always the first one in. The bigger star, he's always the first one in. So where is this absence thing coming from? Do you know why they are able to say this? Because we can say it, no one is going to challenge us. No journalist from Nigeria will say anything about it. Definitely no content creator from Nigeria will say anything about it. Rather, they will even twerk to what we've said. And so we can say whatever we like and get away with it. This applies to every facet of life, not just football. Not just football. We say whatever we like. I know Nigeria is not perfect. Leadership in Nigeria, not perfect. But do you want to slam and slate players because of the poor leadership? In fact, which country is perfect? Anyway, so that's my bit. Forgive me, it might be a bit of a rant, but I have to say it. I have to do it. No one else will do it. So I will do it. And then back to the news we've talked about so far. So Sesko probably will go to Manchester United, though Newcastle United have made a more, should I say, a higher offer, 90 million euros. And then you have add-ons. Manchester United have made 85 million euros, 5 million euros with add-ons included. But now people always say, oh, Manchester United are a bigger club, more history and all that jazz. If I was Sesko, there's nothing you would say to me, I'll go to Manchester United. Because you've seen how they have been. They have been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And they're not even in the Champions League. And, the history or the clout that Manchester United supposedly has would then put enormous pressure on you, despite the fact that the club is in absolute shambles. So from a Sesko, I wouldn't go there, but maybe he's had it in his mind. Maybe you have someone in his family who loved Manchester United for a long while. And, historically, a great club. So maybe he goes there. So AD says, how you go? How are you? Isak accepted to go to Liverpool, and Benjamin Sesko accepted to go to Newcastle United. So Isak, apparently, if that is true, off to Liverpool, then the question then becomes, how are Liverpool going to set up going into the season? That's the question. How will they set up? So does it mean Isak gets to play out wide, and then what's his name? Ekitike rather gets to play out wide, and then Isak gets to play, through the middle, and Wits play as 10. I know you and the slot, at least some Liverpool fans have said, and the slot wants a flexible sort of system where people can rotate and move. But that's fair. That's fair. Let's see how that works out. And then Rio Ugumoha, and that means or whatever he's doing in preseason, maybe gets him a loan, or at least gets him in the team to be a regular in cup games and not really so much in the league. Because Ekitike, I've told people, when you spend 95 billion euros on a player, you're not spending that for him to be a defender, for him to be a bench option. He has to start. He's not a developmental player. When you spend that much money on a player, so he is going to start. That's the way I see it. And then if Isak decides to go to Liverpool, okay, that's fair play to him. Let's see how it all shakes down. But for me, I just feel like this signing is not something. It's a bit too much for me, in my opinion, because you're going to have too much egos. And while on the face of it, on paper, it may feel like this sets up Liverpool nicely to be favourites, it does leave them exposed in certain areas. You have a Frimpong, he's a fullback, but he doesn't really like defending. He prefers to bomb forward. Kekej is a better defender than Frimpong, but he likes to bomb forward as well. So I think the flanks will be really open, and definitely Mo Salah isn't tracking back for anybody. So that means you have that slot open, and teams should be able to, take advantage of it. So, at this point, I've come to the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for staying true with me to the end of this video.